So of course, as is completely usual, I'm beginning my pickups video with things that I took with me to New York Comic Con 2025, which I am, of course, returned from now because I'm back in the room where I normally do all my filming. I will flick up on screen the gentleman who assisted me with these. In particular, this. These three are all from Babylon 5. This is a Psychor badge, this is an Earth Alliance badge, this is a Ranger brooch. Now, I really couldn't believe this when it arrived because I basically said to this guy, do you do this? And he said, no, but I can make one. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was like literally about 3 days later, he had 3D printed this for me. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. He literally just looked at a picture online, it came up with the design, and he did it. And it's a Minbari and a human and a sort of a pool of mixed blood or something, I think is the idea. And he just did that for me. And he'll now sort of sell that on his shop, on eBay basically. And I just thought, that's just crazy. It's crazy good as a sort of 3D printed thing, but it's crazy. And apparently, I don't think he'd mind me saying, he's doing this sort of thing online because he's a little bit autistic, and he just finds that this is easier for him to do, and he's clearly incredibly talented. So big shout out to him for that. I don't think anyone recognised it a damn in the entire time I was there, but I valued having it on my backpack at all times, so thank you to him. And the Guy badge is absolutely spot on because I was playing Guy from Free Guy on a couple of days, so I was one of the idiots wandering around Comic Con with a tie on, trying my level best to do cosplay. And I have to say, I had new respect for people doing cosplay by virtue of trying that low-key cosplay, because the number of little details you have to try and get right to actually make it identical to what's on screen, or as near as damn it, is actually remarkably difficult, I found. So I did my best approximation. And I was quite chuffed with it actually in the end. I would have liked a bigger Captain America shield, but they're expensive. And I did see a lot of them at the con actually that were full on metal. And they were impressive beasts. So I'll throw his details on too. So those were the things that I took with me. But they weren't actually the only things that I took with me. They were just the visible things that I took with me. I also had to represent the Cosmic Massive. So I also had my emergency rations with me. So I had my double bounty with me, and I did actually eat my double bounty on a big bus during our New York sightseeing phase of the holiday because I was bloody hungry at the time. So thanks Bounty, you did your job and you did appear in Comic Con, at least on my screen. I also took this chap around with me as my lucky talisman. The Cosmic Toy Man has been to New York Comic Con. I'm afraid he hasn't been signed by anybody more exciting than Gareth, but obviously that would be extremely difficult. Nevertheless, he was in my bag the whole time because I thought that was just hilarious, quite frankly. So I enjoyed that, and I do think that I like to think that they both brought me good luck in that sense. I'm just casting around as well for another badge, which I think originally Gareth actually gifted me. Whisper It Quietly, because obviously, he doesn't like to do that thing terribly often. It is around somewhere, but obviously now I'm trying to lay my hands on it, I can't find it. But anyway, his Don't Panic in the style of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy badge that he once gave me, I also took with me. And that very same day when I put my hands on it, because I hadn't actually had it all the time, I actually said to an American, don't panic, because he thought I was trying to hug him and I wasn't. There was a completely other reason for why I had my arms stretched wide, but that was hilarious. And I just said to him, no, I'm not trying to hug you, don't panic. So anyway, lots of little anecdotes like that. Let me get on with what I actually picked up. Although before I do, let me just scene set here. This is the sort of standard lanyard that were handed out to everyone for Comic-Con 2025. So everyone could just grab these from sort of big buckets. I had ordered an upgrade, which I didn't really pick up until I think maybe Friday, which was this one. And as you can see, this one is a lot brighter and it's more sort of Halloween themed. It's pretty cool. It's a nice material as well. It's very sort of silky. So yeah, so that was cool. So, you know, the nice bit of sort of graphic around your neck. This was my Sunday card. And this was my Saturday card. This was my Friday card. And that was my day 1 card. So that is my complete set there of all 4 days of New York Comic Con 2025. I couldn't get a 4-day pass. The 4-day passes are quite tricky to get. They seem to sell out incredibly quickly, but they are cheaper than the VIP version of everything. So basically, they scan these as you go in. It's super efficient. They just go beep, 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 and they go valid, and you walk through, and that's largely it, unless you get bag checked. That's it. End of, you know. So it's incredibly well organized. I mean, I was gobsmacked by how well organized it was. Really easy, stress-free. Didn't really have to queue particularly, but then I was aiming more for a sort of a 10:30ish arrival time. The doors open at 10, so I know that people did queue before that, particularly on Thursday, I think, for, you know, the people who were trying to get this sort of like Funko Pop exclusives and stuff like that. They were really sort of keen, and they were first in through the doors. So now I'll put these out while I talk to you about this, so I don't have too much dead air, and then I'll explain the reasons behind them. So these are my actual pickups. Now, he doesn't want to stand up, so I'll just leave him down there for a moment, and then I'll show him to you in a second. This was a holiday, first and foremost. I wasn't going to collect and, you know, and sort of buy toys as such. Nevertheless, I was of course very interested by what was on the show floor, which is where all the exhibitors were. But I had so little time to actually stop and stare and look at things. I'm going to try and do a graphic to show you the size of a single floor of the Javits Conference Centre as against Doncaster Toy Fair. So that those of you who are familiar with Doncaster Toy Fair will understand just how incredibly huge the Javits is. And that's one floor. There are several. So I think I kind of used the force, because I had this window of opportunity. I had maybe 45 minutes when I said to myself, okay, I'm going to put myself in roughly the area I think the smallest sellers are, and I'm going to see who is selling things that are of interest to me, and I'm just going to grab stuff, basically, because I didn't have time to do much of anything else. And I had identified a few targets, but I will run through each of these individually, and I'll explain my thinking. Now, let's start with this one, perhaps in a moment, because everyone's going to go, hang on a minute, we know what that is, because everyone's been talking about them recently, and of course they have. Now, there's also, I picked up him, which is unusual for me, and I'll explain why in a moment. And I got a couple of oddities, which just tickled me. So I got them. They are fridge magnets. And I also got my first example of him, which I'm sure isn't a terribly exciting example of him, but nonetheless, again, it tickled me, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it because I can. And obviously, what all of these will have in common for me mentally is that they came from New York Comic Con. So for me personally, they have more value than would otherwise be the case had they not come from Comic Con. Now, that wasn't it. Those are what I would term my traditional pickups. And there is one other one I'm going to show to you in a moment as well. So those are the main ones. As I say, just fridge magnets here, just a classic Picard facepalm meme sort of fridge magnet. McFarlane sort of style Spider-Man, a style of him that I particularly enjoy. And that, again, that's going to go on the fridge to kind of balance out the Batman that's already on my fridge. In the interest of fair play. This is just a sort of a Monsterverse kind of style Bandai Godzilla from 2019. I quite liked his slightly sort of glowy back spines there, as if he's sort of starting to charge up. He's got a little bit of articulation to him, which is, you know, obviously never a bad thing. So he's got some movable legs and some movable arms. Head's pretty much staying where it is. But I didn't think that was a bad mould. You know, as these things go, I didn't think it was bad at all. So I thought, yeah, I'll just have that as an example of. He doesn't seem to want to focus for some reason. There we go. Come on, focus. Focus, focus. He's not wanting to focus at all. Very odd. Yep, that's about as good as I'm going to get, I'm afraid. Okay. So, Godzilla. Now, well, I know he was interesting. He was about $35, I think. But even the guy, when I picked him up, the guy sort of said, "Yeah, you know, that's a nice one." And he does seem to be pretty clean. But unusually for me, I've also managed to get him with his sort of mask helmet and even his accessory. Now this is a bit awkward. None of my normal loose Star Wars figures have their accessories, so I might have to give him his accessory, and then he will stand out even more as being a New York Comic Con pickup because, well, he just will. Now, Mythic Legions, I probably overpaid for this guy. He was on a stall where I think the guy was kind of milking it a bit, but he reminded me a little bit of, I'm going to mispronounce this now, but from 2000 AD, Slan, the Horned God, Slow Feg, that character with the antlers sort of coming off his armor. But I just thought he was pretty cool looking, and he was cheaper than the other option that was there. And I'd been looking for Mythic Legion stuff as I went around. This was literally the only place I saw it. So I committed to that, you know, reasonably happily. And this is one of the Four Horsemen, I believe. I haven't even read the actual series blurb on the back here, but I think I recognise that chap from one of Ed's videos. So yeah, just looked pretty cool. So I just thought it would be rude not to, basically. Don't think the card is in perfect condition. Ironically, it must have been Sunday when I picked these up. That's right, it was the last day. So people were already starting to gradually shut down at that point. And I know that it was Sunday because they got slightly damp as I was bringing them back to the hotel, ironically, because it was the first day it had really tried to rain particularly. Again, I was in a random state of mind by that. Delirium was probably starting to set in there from exhaustion. So I picked up a Howard the Duck. I have no idea why. A master of quack foo. It just tickled me basically, and I just thought, I don't think I have Howard the Duck in my sort of comic collection, but it was quite an action-packed cover. And I didn't hate the art either, and it looks like it's sort of Fu Manchu or something sat in the background there. So yeah, that was just that just tickled me. That tickled me. So I picked that up. On a similar basis, I was passing by one seller, and I saw that they had a bargain bin basement sort of bucket. So I picked up Deathlock. Marvel Superheroes Deathlock. So it's not even Marvel Legends. I assume this is a precursor to the Marvel Legends series. But again, I rather like the mold. He looks very much as I remember Deathlock in the comics of my day. So I thought, yep, I'm gonna have that. Thank you very much. So just really cool. It's battered as all heck. I might even get it off the card. Look, they've stuck a blinking anti-theft thing right on it as well. So that's not gonna. There's no way I'm removing that without wrecking the card. That's not gonna happen. So yeah, Deathlock looks like fun. All the sort of old styles of the heroes from my day there. Electronic talking action figures to collect them all. I bet this one isn't electronic. To expose Deathlock's brain, lift the metal skull plate straight up. Nice. So yeah, they were really friendly on that stall as well. They let me sort of go into it as well to pay and stuff. So it was quite funny. They had just a few retro things, and that's why it sort of caught my eye. Now this is hilarious. I don't even know what drew me to this stall, because the last thing I was looking for was DVDs, and this is probably decidedly not an official DVD, but trying to find Roughneck Starship Troopers on DVD is really hard. This is an animated CGI series, which I once caught a few of the sort of campaigns of. Each season is called a campaign, and I think this might have all of them. Although, as I say, I think it's probably been ripped. But the guy seemed to be fairly confident about the quality of it. I'd asked about region. He said it would, quote, play on any DVD player, unquote. I rather suspect that it will, because it's probably not region locked. So I'm hoping that works. Do I feel slightly guilty about getting it? Yes, but it is extremely difficult to find that in its original state in the UK. So, yeah. And this caught my eye as well. Aliens Book 2. I read this in a serialized format. I never had the original comics for it, but the A4 comics that were released in the UK carried this run. And I just love the artwork for this comic. It's gorgeous. It really is, and I just saw that front cover, Dark Horse Comics, and I just thought, oh. And again, was it overpriced? Yes, almost certainly. Is it easy to get hold of? Probably not. So again, for me, I was literally just grabbing the stuff that just caught my eye and drew me and convinced me that I wanted it. It was that, because I was going that fast. That was literally, almost my entire thought process. Now, do you remember that Mythic Legion guy that I said was kind of overpriced? On this occasion, I didn't think that he was. And this is probably the thing I'm most proud of in the sense of finding. Doorbell interruption, right. So this. Hilarious. Look at this. It's only a Battle Beast lunchbox. I've seen them before. I think I've seen one at a toy fair before. But this was actually relatively reasonably priced from this guy. And I thought, I don't think I can leave that. And it was weird because it was, I can picture it really clearly. It was tucked away on one end of a shelf, and it was quite interesting because they had so much space in each of these stalls, on these bigger stalls anyway, that they formed a sort of enclosure. So they had a left wall and a right wall and a back wall, and sometimes even a little bit of a front wall, so it was kind of like a doorway in. You got a sort of cave effect. This guy was quite open, but he had a lot of space on the left, to the right, and the back, and this was sort of on the right hand side wall but tucked towards the corner. It just caught my eye. And the other really, really interesting thing about this, to my mind at least, is that it's actually got a thermos flask in it. Now it needs a really good clean. First time I've looked at it with direct light on it, it needs a good clean out. But the clasp is really good. The handle is fine. Got a little bit of a name mark on the back of it. It's produced by Aladdin, it appears. It's a little bit scuffed. It's obviously been used in life, but that's absolutely fine. The sticker is reasonably well attached on the front, but the image itself is really not bad at all. And what I love about this is that the flask is actually sort of telling you exactly how the battle beasts work. So it's got the triangle of fire, water and wood on it. And again, this is a little bit more faded. But I think that's terrific. It's just like not the sort of thing I was aiming to bring home with me. But fortunately, I had made some space in the case because I'd used certain things up. And so, I was able to sort of bring this back fairly happily. In fact, at one point I thought that Lando had gone missing, but then I realised the guy had put Lando in the Battle Beast case. So yeah, and that's even one of the Battle Beasts that I had when I was little. I can't remember what his official name is now because I'm not that well up on them, but I have since reclaimed him. So it might, I suppose, be quite fun to one day have all the relevant battle beasts. Interestingly, his arms are the wrong way around there. You see, I've put him there for reference, but that shouldn't be his holding arm. It should be on the other side. Funny. Oh dear. Well, 40 years on, I found the glitch. It's actually dated copyright 1986, Hasbro Inc. on the bottom left corner down here. So that will be 40. This will be 40 years old in a year's time at the time of recording. That's crazy. I still can't believe I picked that up of all things. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, that was part of this mad dash that I was doing on the Sunday, just to try and satisfy my slight craving for coming away with something retro, because I had got 2 sets of other things. And these are slightly more offbeat for me, slightly more unusual. Now, I didn't spend a huge amount of time on in the artist alley, as I may have mentioned, but I also picked up these robots and spaceships. Spaceships, robots. Both of which, again, they drew my eye. And I've just done a little bit of research on a gentleman called Jake Parker, and I'll throw up a picture of him on the screen. And I think the Star Warsians amongst you will appreciate the artwork behind him. But this one in particular reminded me a lot of Chris Foss, and I am a fan of Chris Foss's style of drawing. And the robots one similar. So this is part comic, part technical reference kind of books, and I don't want to delve into them too much because obviously I might do that another time. But it was just literally the style of them. It was probably one of the first places I actually went, maybe on the first day actually, and I saw them and I thought, you know what, I am going to pick those up later on. Not right now because I'm trying to get my bearings, but later on I will come back and I will get them, and I actually managed to do so. So very, very glad that I did. I haven't had a chance to sit and really look at them yet, but I will do in due course. Fascinatingly though, Jake Parker contributed to Titan AE, which is a very obscure animated film which some of you may be familiar with. And I half wonder whether or not, in the back of my mind somewhere, my brain was going, hey, they look like that cool style of ship you saw in Titan AE. He also contributed to things like Ice Age and Epic and Rio. So he's contributed to quite a few sort of relatively well-known things. So interesting sort of format to do it in as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting into those, but really interesting. And again, I don't think I would ever have tripped across that in a million years had I not physically been at New York Comic Con. And exactly the same can be said of this. Now, this is actually by a place called Studio de Sard. Lovely gentleman called Nigel, who I spoke to at some length. And this is actually classed as fine art. He draws these. Now, I might have to kill this light off a little bit. I have checked and his website does have images of these, so I'm not too worried about displaying them to you them to you here. And this is only one of 3 that I picked up. I am going to use, I think what I'm going to do is use all 3 of them in a single image and get it framed. Now this is Moya from Farscape and her offspring Talon, which I've only just realised now in the cold light of day, having got home, is in the background there. And Nigel has signed it there for me. And he's also, that looks like she's just come out of Starburst. And he had a load of these on display. I mean, it was a tremendous, and the size of the biggest ones, and also the price of the biggest ones, was incredibly impressive. Great big sort of hanging tapestry-like pieces of artwork, really unique. And again, had I not been at New York Comic Con, I would never have run across that in a million years, because, you know, it's like the sort of the purest sort of art you can think of to find in an actual comic con, rather than as against a toy fair, for example. And I just thought, do you know what, I cannot, I mean, I was absolutely torn. I went quite obscure. So the other ones here are a TARDIS and Serenity from the Firefly series. Those are the 2. And I went for them because they are obscure as all heck. I mean, the TARDIS isn't, but a lot of people probably wouldn't. Most people think of the TARDIS as a time machine rather than a spaceship. But for me, it's very much both those things. And it's actually a very, very cool spaceship because it can just instantaneously transfer from one point in space to another, you know? So yeah, so there'll be a sort of a, you know, a trifecta, if you like, of obscure spaceships in a single frame by the time I'm done with them. Not quite sure how I'll position them yet, but that's something I need to sort of think on, because again, I haven't had much thinking time yet. I've only been back a couple of days. So just really lovely, really unique to have picked up. That's limited edition 96 of 500 because they are literally all done by him. There are also Star Trek ones available as well, and I resisted because I was sorely tempted, but I thought I can't quite make that work in terms of the theme of what I'm looking at here. So those 2 are obviously new. You know, they're not sort of retro toy pickups, or, you know, they're not what I would normally pick up. But at a Comic Con, it seemed rude not to, basically. I've just found my Don't Panic badge. There we go. Never panic, because it's always around when you need it. There you go. Just a couple of other pickups, probably just to mention. There are lots of giveaways at the Comic Con, and this was one of them. So I got a bag of sweeties because Chris Pratt was there advertising his new film Mercy, only in theatres January 23rd, 2026. Might be quite interesting. He's basically strapped to a chair, apparently, for 99% of the time, although you do see his character doing other stuff sort of retrospectively. So yeah, just a bag of sweets from Mercy there. And yes, you know, it's every bit as random as it sounds. It's just, you know, just random giveaways. And I also got this this delightful hat, which was somehow gotten very, very white and fluffy, of the Prodigy Corps. And this is from Alien Earth, of course. And I went to an Alien Earth panel and they were giving these out. They really do look quite wrecked, but I do have 2 of them because they were just literally just sort of throwing them on seats. So I mean, in terms of freebie pickups, those might be my only 2. They had a little badge of something somewhere as well that I got given. Can't remember where that was from, but that was also a thing. So, you know, I've got lots of other sort of personal photos and so on, but what I'm hoping to do at the time of recording, in fact I may have done it by the time you see this, I'm going to sort of sit and do a live stream, I think, and just sort of show you some photos at speed and just try and give you a taste of what it was actually like there. It's really, really hard to convey it, but for someone like me, probably someone like you, it is a very, very happy place to be. It's probably the most joyful I've been for quite a long time. and that's been bouncing around in my skull as a concept for quite a while now, for the last couple of days as I've been coming back. So that's been really interesting for me, because I remember feeling this way the first time I went to a con 30 years ago. It was like going to your favourite team's home football match and it running for 3 days, in this case 4 days, and just that feeling of them always winning. It's that sense of community and sort of spirit, and you know that everyone there is there for everyone else and no one's going to be difficult. It's just for the duration, it was probably the safest place in New York City at any given point in time of those 4 days, realistically. And we did take the place over as well. There were people with lanyards, those lanyards I showed you, walking the streets all over the place around the convention centre. There were literally thousands of people attending. It was crazy busy. Could you go there and treat it like a toy fair? Yes, you could. You absolutely could, but you'd have to have the patience of God because as much extra space as there is, it is all consumed by virtue of the sheer volume of bodies in the building at any given point in time, and particularly in the tighter spaces in the show floor, things got quite interesting. The show floor also had all the really big sellers like NECA and I'm going to get them wrong now, Joy Toy, Hire, all those guys were there as well. That they had, much bigger, more impressive stands. Starfleet Academy series had its own little sort of area as well. We had 4 days. We still only covered a fraction of it. It's just that bonkers and that intense. So you just had to pick your targets, basically. But anyway, I hope that's been of some insight in terms of what I came back with. Would I go again? Hell yes. Does it help if you're younger? Hell yes. If only because you'll have more endurance. But I mean, the lad and I did a sterling job. I think it's fair to say we did not waste a huge amount of time, except when he needed a bit of a timeout sometimes because of the intensity. We stayed on our feet for hours on end. We queued for autographs, we queued for photo ops, we queued for panels. So we did chew up a certain amount of time doing that. But that's just one of those decisions you have to make. And I will do another video talking about that side of it in a bit more detail. But for now, thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me. Cheers.